Today we're going to be working on a 2000 Cadillac Catera Sport. This car has a bad gauge cluster in it. I replaced it recently, but the oil pressure gauge is bad on the new one. So we're going to be pulling it today. Take two and make one good one. Want to give a shout out to Ivan Rosinski, who put up a video of him pulling his out of his Catera and replacing it. But I'm going to do this video because I'm going to go a little bit further than he did. My oil pressure gauge on this unit is bad. So I'm going to take the oil pressure gauge out of the old cluster, which worked, and put it in the new cluster from the junkyard that has a bad oil pressure gauge. So let's get started. Here are the tools we're going to be using for the job. I'm going to need a Phillips screwdriver, slotted screwdriver, pair of needle nose, and my Leatherman. I don't have the fancy plastic spludger that Ivan had, so I'm going to be using my Leatherman to get in here. So the first step's going to be to get these vents out of here. So I have to get in here beside this piece and kind of pry a little bit. See, there's one side loose, it moved. You just pry a little bit, and you see I've got the insides loose. And you've kind of got in here, they're kind of a pain, but you get in here and you work them. When you work them loose, you can take your needle nose pliers gently and just pull on it a little bit, and your vent will come out. You can tell I've had these out before. These come out pretty easy this time. So I'm going to pry on my other end here that I ain't done yet. Did you hear the inside pop back in? These things are definitely a bit of a pain, but if you're easy with them, you can get them. It popped back in on me. You can get them out without too much drama, and hopefully not break them, because of course they're 16-year-old plastic. The second vent on the right was a bit more trouble than the first one. But basically what I did was I popped the inside loose, took my needle nose, pulled out on it so that side wouldn't pop back in, and took my knife on my Leatherman, popped out this side. And once I had them both popped loose, I took two pairs of pliers, the Leatherman pliers on this end, the needle nose on this end, and pulled it straight out, and it come right out. Okay, the reason we had to pull this is because there's a screw back in here, right here, and there's another screw back in here to get this cluster out. So I'll go ahead and pull those. Okay, now that's out. As I showed you, the two screws in here, which once you get this out, that will reveal this screw right here, which holds your cluster in. So I'm going to pull it next. Okay, now we've got to pull this cover here off the steering column. So, as you can see, there's a screw right here under this cover. So all you have to do is get your pocket knife out here. Just pry this little cover off. And as you can see, we have a Phillips head screw here. There's also one on the other side right here. I've already pried the cover off of it. Okay, now I've got these two screws out. And once you get them two screws out, this top piece of this column just kind of clips in here. As you can see, it's loose now. And once you get that out of here, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to show it. Underneath of here, don't think I'm going to be able to get it on camera, but there's a screw up under this piece that holds your column, your cluster in. I can't get a picture of it, but take my word for it, it's a Phillips screw and it's right under there. Okay, once you get the screw out in the center down here, you can see where it was at now. You push down on this plastic piece here. It's kind of a flimsy plastic. Push it down, lift your cluster up over, and you see you can get to this point where it's sitting here loose. Now, you got a connector back here. It's just a friction fit. It just pulls right out. This connector back here can be a real pain in the butt. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little black lock on it, right there. See the black lock? That black lock goes straight back. Okay, now we have our cluster out, as you can see. You can see there's what I was talking about. It's friction fit. You just push it on and that connects. Over here is probably the worst part of the job, this connector right here. See, this is that black lock I was talking about. It pushes in and pulls out. If it's the first time this thing's been apart, it will be a pain in the butt. It will be stuck. You'll probably have to use a screwdriver and be careful not to break it. To disassemble your cluster, to pull your oil pressure gauge and temperature gauge off, as you can see right through here, it's a separate unit. I'll have to pull these 3 T10 screws. There's one there, one back over here, and one here in the corner. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this module off of this one. This is the junkyard cluster with 56,000 miles. Everything works but the oil pressure. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the oil pressure module and temperature module off of this one and take them off of this one. On this cluster, the oil pressure and temp gauge were fine. It was the speedometer and tachometer that's bad on this cluster. So to do that, what I'm going to have to do is pull them torque screws. Then I've got clips. See the clip there, none on the side, and them 2 clips there. And once I get that out, this whole module should pull right up. Okay, now how I got this piece out after pulling them 3 screws, which these are T10 by the way, Torx number 10. They're itty bitty. If I can get it to focus here. Don't want to focus. But now once those screws are out, all that holds this thing is them clips. These clips right here, top and bottom. So what I did, I took 2 small flat blade screwdrivers, just pulled a little bit gently on these, and worked it out on the top, and did the same thing on the bottom, worked it out, pulled it back out. Okay, now we're ready to slap this one back together. This is my good oil pressure gauge, and it's going in the good cluster. So you just line up your clips here. That's all it is to it. Put your 3 torque screws back in. Here, here, and here. And right there. So tighten them screws back up, and we're just about ready to start reassembling this thing. I've borrowed several bulbs out of this old cluster because they were bad. So I'm having to change some bulbs out here because I put the old sockets in the bad cluster. So now bulbs, all you have to do with these, just set them in there, line up the thing, give them a turn until they stop like that. Removal, if you want to check them, turn them back, pull them out. I'll tell you a quick and dirty way to find bad bulbs in these things, or any bad bulb for that matter. Get you a volt ohm meter on the continuity with a continuity beeper. Just touch your ohm leads to each side. If it beeps, it has continuity. The bulb could still be bad, but if it don't beep, it is definitely bad. Okay, I'm back. Now, I've got the good oil pressure gauge out of the original cluster, put in the junkyard cluster. Now it's ready to go back in. It goes in real easy. It's pretty much the reverse of taking it out, but I'll document it to show you guys as I go. Okay, now the cluster's back into place and plugged in. Let's do a quick function check and make sure we're working. Yep, we're working. See my oil pressure gauge come up normally. Volts has come up good. Tach's looking good, which of course I know this stuff is good. It's newer junkyard stuff, 58,000 miles. Weird thing is that oil pressure gauge right there has about 180 on it. But it works. Okay, so now when you put this thing back in, be sure to remember this harness back here that I showed you earlier. Don't forget to connect that and shove your lock back in. Now, this thing's ready to bolt. This thing's ready to bolt in. So I'm going to replace my bolt here, replace my bolt here, and I'll be right back. Okay, now that screw up under there's back in. Oh, you can kind of see it. I push down on it. You see him right there? That screw's a burr to get to and a burr to get started. That's the screw I was talking about earlier. And this screw in here, as you can see, it's back into place. So now I'm ready to put the top of the column cover back on. As you can see, it's just, well, it's hard to see, but it's got clips and then of course the screw holes. So just line him back up on each side. I'm going to need 2 hands for this because them rubber boots are a pain to get lined up right. But you just slide it straight down once you have everything lined back up. Okay, now I've got my wheel turned sideways. Apologize for the beeper. As you can see, I've put my screw back in, and this little hickey, it just slides right back in. Once you line it up with the screw, a little plug slides in, and that side's done. Do the same thing on the other side over here. Once you turn, you have to turn your wheel, and this end of it will be done. Okay, now as you can see, I've got this side back in, the screw and the little plastic plug I showed you earlier. Now we're ready to put the vents back in this hole, which they're easy. I've already got my screw back in there as I showed you earlier. My screws are already in the holes here, lined up, ready to go. So we'll just set this back in. Line it up. That's lined in the hole. So I will get my Phillips screwdriver. These 2 little screws here will take care of them bad boys. Have to get it lined up, kind of hard with one hand. There's one done. Now, there's the second one. I apologize for the bad lighting. It's really sunny out here today. So that screws in good and tight. Now my vents. Getting them out is a hell of a lot easier than getting them in. Or getting them in is a hell of a lot easier than getting them out. So just line them up in here. Just get them started. They're a pain. You just gotta hold your mouth right. So there's one. in too far. There we go. Now she's in good. Okay, now the other side. Just kind of try to be as gentle with these as you can, because I don't know how old your Catera is, but this one's 16 years old, so like 16-year-old brittle plastic. As you can see, my vents are back in and functional. Everything works here. This job's buttoned up. Hopefully I helped somebody out. Thank you for watching. More to come later.